we are going to lose our entire living system, because you all know the various sanskritis, the communities which were earlier perished. For example, this whether it is Mesopotamia or our own Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, all these things, they tell that because of neglect of the land resources, they ended in the complete destruction of the communities and the entire civilizations. So that is the importance he has explained. So with that, I will come to next to the I'm not able to move the next slide.
Yes, it is moving.
Yeah, friends, now I welcome you to our bureau, that is National Bureau for Soil Survey and Land Use Planning. This is one of the bureaus dealing with the one important commodity, soil. In the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, there are 7 bureaus. Bureau means you must be knowing that in Kannada we call it as Biru. Biru means the place or a thing in which we are storing our important valuable things. So similarly, these bureaus are for generating the database or the preservation of the genetic materials and preserving them for the future generations. Like plant genetic resources, animal genetic resources, microbial resources, and we have one more in here neighboring us, insect resources. Like that, we have 7 bureaus in the ICR system, and our bureau is dealing with the important commodity, that is soils. And our headquarters is at Nagpur, and it's also taking care of the central India. And we have centers at Udaipur, New Delhi, Jorat, Kolkata, and our Bangalore center is catering to the all South Indian states. That is what we are seeing on the screen here. The states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Pondicherry, and Goa. These are all the states we are covering. So if you see the mandate, what we are doing, it is the generation of LRI. LRI means Land Resources Inventory. What is this Land Resource Inventory and what is its importance? I will explain in the coming slides. And the generation of Land Resource Inventory is for promoting the scientific and optimal use of land resources. And we are doing with all these activities in collaboration with other states and institutions. For example, in Sujala, we worked with it was funded by the state government, and we worked with all the state agriculture universities, and our Bidar friends from Bidar were one of our important collaborators, and they have carried out the generation of land resource inventory under our guidance and supervision. So this is about the National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning. So many of you who are opting for soil science, agronomy, or even environmental science, and many more divisions are there in our this one. They may be able to, you are taking ARS examination, Agriculture Research Service examinations, you will be able to join our bureau also in the coming years. So what we are doing, it will be helpful to you also, and if you get interested in this one, definitely it will be, you can make a career in our. So this is our headquarters at National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning at Nagpur, and it's also taking care of the central India. So all other centers will be working under the guidance of our headquarters, where our director and our accounts, administration, finance, all these people are sitting there. And we have mainly 3 divisions. One is the remote sensing applications, second one is the land use planning, and third one is the soil resource studies. So 3 divisions are working, and the scientists from disciplines like GIS, that is Geographic Information System, remote sensing, agronomy, agriculture economics, then of course soil science, soil and water conservation engineers, and environmental scientists, all are working in these disciplines. And this is our regional center next to Veterinary College in Bangalore. It's one of the very old centers. It was established during year 1952 itself, and it was under the ministry earlier, and now it is under ICR since 1976. So we are catering to the South Indian states. So coming to other centers, we have, I told you, this is our center at Kolkata, catering to the Eastern India. Then it's our center at Assam. This is taking care of the northeastern region. Then we have center at Delhi. Delhi center is taking care of the North Indian states, that is Jammu, Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and all. Then we have a center at Udaipur. It is taking care of the east, western, that is Gujarat and Rajasthan. So like this, we have presence in all the parts of India where they are taking care of those regional requirements. And this is our Jura center, I already talked. Coming to other facilities or the infrastructure, what we have whenever you are visiting, now you are having a virtual All India tour. And in this virtual All India tour, I am showing the soil museum, which if you had visited our center physically, we would have taken you to this museum. This is called as pedonorium. Ped means a clump of soil. A clump of soil, it is displayed in the museum. It's called as pedonorium. You must have seen in your college also, Dr. Praveen Kumar has under this one, he has already established. So we have the soils of all the South Indian states, major soils of South Indian states. We have displayed in a standard format, both the actual soil as well as the photographs, the land use, and what are the soil characteristics. So all those things in a systematic way we have displayed for understanding by the students and the researchers as well as other visitors. From the museum itself, we can see what kind of soil occurs in various places, and these soils are all classified based on the USDA classification. United States Department of Agriculture classification is what we follow. So these are all the various soils, like this Shiva Ganga is a Tamil Nadu soils. Then we have other soils like from Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. All the soils are there in major soils, because soil variability is so much, we cannot, major soils occurring in these areas we have preserved here for the benefit of students and teachers. We have the very deep red soils, very deep black soils, sandy soils, all kinds of soils we have displayed in our museum. Then coming to another important facility in our this one is the students of horticulture and agriculture. You all know the soil science laboratory. So here we have, our lab is one of the accredited lab, because many of the samples from state governments for rechecking and even soil health card mission, we were given an assignment by the government of India to check the quality of these the samples, because we have the best facilities for various. This is a pressure plate apparatus, you must be knowing. So where we will be measuring the soil moisture constants, that is the field capacity, wilt, permanent wilting point, and based on this, the various soil hydrological properties are studied and interpreted for understanding those soils for watershed development and other things. And this is physical laboratory where we will be measuring using the international pipette method. We are using the soil textural classes. What is the percentage of sand, silt, and clay? So international pipette method. Then we have other chemical parameters like what we. It is little different. The chemical analysis what we normally do is little different from what other labs will do, because we will be doing for the various soil layers and the interrelationship between the various soil layers in the soil characteristics that and overall the health of the this one. Soil resources, land resources. These are all various labs we have. Some physical, we have physical laboratory, chemical laboratories for measuring the physical and chemical parameters. This is, you must be knowing, that is the AAS facility, atomic absorption spectrophotometer for measuring the micronutrient this one, and we have total carbon measurement instrument also we have. These are all the various labs which you are already familiar. And coming to this one, GIS facility, which you have established under Sujala in your college also, yeah, particularly in this College of Horticulture, Bidar. Here we can see the lab is for integrating the land resources data obtained from field as well as from the lab into the final maps in the spatial format. We will be depicting the difference between the soil other soil resources, other soil test, and ours is we will be showing the soil resource status on a spatial format, geographic. This is geographic information system laboratory. The data obtained from both lab and field is integrated and finally processed in the GIS software, geographic information system software, and will be producing the outputs in the form of maps and finally the soil land resource inventory cards, as well as the atlases, and finally reports both in Kannada as well as in English for the benefit of the departments as well as the other farmers, the other ultimate stakeholders. So this is our GIS laboratory. You must have seen, and we have for running the GIS laboratory, there are various high-end equipments are needed. That is plotter, printer, Xerox, all those things we have here. Then we have the data storage, a huge data storage. Of course, it was given under Sujala project only because when you are storing the data in a spatial format, it occupies huge space in the digital format. So for that, data storage system is also, they are all linked to the watershed development department and other this one for generating. And whenever you are visiting some exhibitions and congresses, you can see the participation of NBSS LUP. Then if you go there, and you can get glimpses of what we are doing physically also during these, because we participate in all major exhibitions organized by various governments to create awareness about the importance of land resources, soil resources, and utilization of the scientific information. And finally, every year we publish a report called annual report of whatever the studies we are carried out under various projects during the year is brought out in the form of a report. And here we will get all the details about the research output during the previous year, as well as the various scientific publications brought out. All those things will be available in the annual report in the awareness table. So coming to I was talking about land resources inventory, or LRI. LRI means, so what is this LRI? LRI is nothing but it is the assessment or the study of the status as well as the changing condition of soil, water, and related resources. That's biodiversity. All those things are captured in a standard format. So that particular inventory or document is called the land resource inventory. So it is soil, and as you know, soil and water are the two key resources. They are to be conserved for our future generations, for sustaining the life on this earth. So soil is the resource which is the major reservoir of storing soil moisture, and unless you safeguard take care of the soil, you cannot save or store the water. And soil is the biggest reservoir for storing the water. You may be knowing that a normal soil of 15 centimeters, I'm talking about average, stores about 46 lakh liters of water in 1 hectare of land. So that is the capacity. So in our Sujala project or any other projects, whatever the activities we are doing for finally coming out the projects, I will be coming in the future in the further slides. So you can see here a landscape here. In a landscape, you can see we have the uplands, we have midlands, we have lowlands and valleys. So as a common sense itself, we can make out, and you are all. Sir. You can see here the landscape, which is for the students of horticulture and agriculture. It's understood that the status of what is the kind of soil, what is the potential of soil, what is the nutrient holding capacity, what is the crop grown in the upland, what is grown in midland, what is in valley. They are totally different because the soil resources are different there. So soil resources are directly related to the land's relief or the landscape's position. So in the land resource inventory, what we are doing is we are capturing the status of the land resources in the upland, in the midland, and where the boundary of in between the boundary exits, and finally coming out with the land management units. Management point of view, all these units from lowland to the valley to the plain, they are different. So these entire landscape is divided into various land management units, and any particular land management unit has got its unique requirement for soil and water conservation, crop yield potential, water holding capacity is different, nutrient holding capacity will be different, the crops will be different. So ultimately, arriving at a land management unit provides a valuable scientific input for the developmental departments to draw their developmental plans, land management plans, various projects. There are a number of projects operating in the state as well as the central level for managing land resources. Government of India as well as states spend more than 2 lakh crores every year on the management of land resources. So all these projects, whether you take the MNREGA or Watershed Development Project or PMKSY, Prime Minister's Krishi Sinchai Yojana, horticulture development projects, diversification projects, and various states are promoting certain horticulture crops or interested crops, all these export zones, all this they involve the management. So finally, these various stakeholders of the land management units have to make their plans as per the status of land resources there. Unless the status of land resources is not captured properly, whatever the plan they will be making will be it will be suboptimal, or sometimes it will be failure. Because it is nothing but a kind of diagnosis. If you are not well, when you go to a doctor nowadays, any doctor you go, even for a small cough also, they will tell now you go for this particular test, blood test, urine test, or X-ray, or many other tests. Why? Because they want to know the cause of it. Because a fever affecting a person may not be same with another person's fever, because the fever is the only expression of symptom because of different reasons. What is the reason for the particular person's fever and another person's fever? They have to find out first for the cause of that one. So then only they will be prescribing the medicines. So the prescription of medicine depends on the diagnosis. Similarly, the planning of land resources should be based on the potential as well as the limitations of land resources occurring there. If the land resources need more interventions and more investment is needed, more intensive planning is needed. So all these are provided with the help of land resources. It is nothing but a kind of a diagnosis report for the soil, plant resources and soil resources. Why? Because you can see here is a document on desertification and degradation, the land degradation atlas of India. Here we are talking about various kinds of degradation. It's a product by ISRO, the Space Application Center, in which we are also a player. We are also one of the many organizations are working with this one, and we are reporting to the United Nations Convention for Climate Change and Land Degradation. So UNCCD, what we call, and our government of India is committed for bringing land degradation neutrality by 2030. So for all this, this report forms the basis. So for this one, for this to arrive, for the land resource inventory is generated based on the certain characteristics, and this is the reason why we need land resource inventory, because lands are facing various kinds of degradation challenges. So this is up to 2013. Now the 2019 has come out just last week, telling that what is the status of land resources in the country. So if you see here, this is a decade-old data, and just 2 days back the new data has come. I'm not able to put here, but you can see here nearly 30% of our land resources, nearly 96 million hectares, you can take it as 100 million hectares of area, is suffering from various kinds of degradation processes, whether it's vegetation degradation, the major one being water erosion, then wind erosion, salinity, alkalinity, waterlogging, and some in the mass movement, fast shattering. All these are in the cold desert area, cold areas. So all this is captured and brought out in the report. So here we can understand why land resource inventory is essential, because if we need to address this, the various problems, facing, the land resources are facing. So for that, we have to understand the reasons behind it. And coming to the Karnataka, in Karnataka, you can see here nearly 36%, almost 6% more than what is national average is facing degradation and desertification process because of the neglect or the wrong use of land resources. And we have large areas coming under mining nowadays, then deforestation, all those things are contributing to the degradation processes. And this is an alarming situation because if there is a shortage of scooter or a car or anything else, a computer, we can manufacture additional. But if there is a shortage of land, we cannot generate, manufacture land. So whatever the existing land, we have to operate, we have to live on that one only. And existing lands are also, not only they are facing degradation, they are facing the competition from various other sectors, non-agriculture sectors, industries, roads, airports, so many infrastructure projects, they need land. So everywhere there is a demand for land, and the productive agriculture lands, if you are allocating for those purposes, we will be compromising on the food security. And any nation which compromises on the food security and depends on the other nations, other states, it will be always in a problem. We all know that one. So we used to, in 1950s, we used to import large amount of food from other countries. So we were dependent on other countries, dependence on anybody else, even our day-to-day life also, it's always miserable. So that's why there is a need for this one. Then coming to the another important aspect, why the land resources are facing challenges because of the challenges of climate change. Now we can see unseasonal rains, excess rains in northern Karnataka. We, during our school days at college days, we never heard of flooding in northern Karnataka. Now flooding has become every year phenomenon in northern Karnataka and many parts of India. Of course, northern India, it was Ganga and Yamuna plains, it was common. Now it has become common in Karnataka also. So these excess are shortage of rainfall, unseasonal rainfalls, they all are leading to the increased cost of cultivation for the farmers. So farmers and the governments are distress. Then increased temperature, you can see during the summer, we are all feeling during compared to school days and college days, we are feeling the temperature is increasing. So aridity is increasing, relative humidity is decreasing. So all this, what is happening is affecting the soil organic carbon, soil organic matter or soil organic carbon. So soil organic carbon is the indirect reflection of the biological wealth of the soils. We tell no, soil is living. Soil is living because of the soil organic carbon. Soil organic carbon is the one source which sustains the life of microorganisms. So when the microorganisms are there, then only the soil is living and active for supporting the plant life. So this also is a reduction in soil organic carbon is also leading to the increased cost of cultivation. Then of course, pest and disease outbreaks, soil erosion, poor groundwater recharge, all these are leading to the loss of soil nutrients, and the soil nutrients lost means to sustain the yield levels, we have to use increased amounts of nutrients, and that leads to the increased cost of production. So all these things are becoming alarming due to the various reasons. Some are anthropogenic and some are natural. So this is all the things are happening. So anyway, the projects now World Bank what we supported Sujala, it was called a climate smart agriculture project, because the various threats or the challenges posed by the climate change we try to address with the help of the natural resource management. And you know that watershed approach, this is proved to be the best approach in natural resource management, and Karnataka is in the forefront, and Karnataka model is replicated by many states in the last many years. And various options are the watershed approach, best management practices to be adopted, crop diversification, particularly with perennial horticulture and forestry crops. As you know, the perennial horticulture crops, if they are there, they can withstand the vagaries of nature, either whether it is excess rain or shortage of rain. At least farmers are assured of some income during the years of distress also. Then effective planning of soil and water conservation, rainwater harvesting. These are all the strategies that needs to be taken care for making the agriculture a climate smart one. Then of course, the Karnataka has already attempted this. The weather forecasting, Karnataka has the best model of weather forecasting. Karnataka Natural Disaster Monitoring Center is giving a very good input for the farmers on the weather predictions. Then protected cultivation is another tool for the tool of smart climate smart cultivation. And our breeders are breeding varieties. Genetic manipulation is taking place for coming out with varieties which can withstand the drought or flood and all those kinds of challenges faced by this one. And we have attempted to change the climatic parameters itself in many years. That is nothing but the, for example, cloud seeding and artificial rains. So like that, many approaches are being this one. So for all these approaches, first we should know what is the land resources status there. And once you know, we will tell no, for managing any commodity, first we have to measure that commodity. Once you measure that commodity, then only we will be able to manage it properly and scientifically evaluate. Managing is, for example, soil organic carbon. We all talk soil organic carbon is lost, soil is getting reduced and it's becoming a problem. But first we should know what is the present level of soil organic carbon or what it was earlier. Then only we will be able to measure and manage it and improve it and evaluate it in the years to come, so that where we are going wrong and what the best other options we can adopt, all those things can be possible if you have a proper baseline data. So that data has to be in my hand to manage that commodity. So this is all. Then when we talk about climate smart agriculture, the climatic challenges are mainly because of the carbon related issues, whether it is greenhouse effect or many other effect. And soil is the most potential resource for sequestration of carbons. Sequestration means the storing it in the soil is possible with various approaches, and the potential is 1.85, 1.9, almost 1 to 2 petagrams of soil in every year. Carbon can be stored in the soil. That is the potential. And in another study, it tells that up to 20 petagrams of carbon can be stored in the soil in 25 years. And any amount of carbon what you store in the soil, this process provides many other important benefits for the soil, for the crop, environment. That's the prevention of greenhouse, this one, and prevention of soil erosion. Soil organic matter is more, means erosion will be less, because more and more soil water is soil absorbs soil moisture as well as the groundwater recharging takes place, and the prevention of desertification and the biodiversity enhancement. All this is possible as we store more and more the organic carbon or the carbon in the soils. So soil is the biggest reservoir of not only the water, it's also biggest reservoir which can be, the potential can be used for storing the carbon. So here, what is this petagram? We have to know what is this petagram. Means 10 raised to 15 grams. 10 raised to that nothing but 1 billion ton. 1 petagram is the almost 2.2 trillion pounds also. It is also called as gigaton. Petagram are also known as the gigaton. That is the amount of carbon that can be stored in this one. Any climate change problem has to be addressed. Means you have to see it about the soil as the resource which can mitigate the hazards of climate change. So that is the importance of it. Then why this land resource inventory? I'm already told you about why it is called as a diagnosis method. Why it is needed for various developmental departments as well as the farmers? Because it is needed for planning the soil and water conservation planning. Means what is based on the soil characteristics, the slope, the texture, the erosion status, the depth, based on all these parameters, what is the best soil and water conservation structure, where it has to be placed, how many such structures are needed. All this needs to be planned by the watershed development department, and many other departments are engaged in soil and water conservation. For that, these reports provide valuable inputs to them to decide on all those things. So finally, what is the cost, what are the inputs needed, all those things, they call it as detailed DPR, detailed project report. For arriving at detailed project report, so the what is the requirement of that particular site is needed. The requirement of that site, if you are able to plan it properly, then the plan becomes successful. And the next objective is the productivity of existing crops, livestock, and reducing the cost of cultivation, and the efficient use of agricultural inputs. Means farmers are already growing certain crops, whether it's field crops or it's horticulture crops, forestry crops, but their productivity levels may not be optimum or as per the expectations, sometimes or many times. So why? What is the reason behind the suboptimal productivity level? That can be understood once you have the land resources inventory. Land resource inventory in terms of the soil depth, soil texture, the nutrient potential, drainage conditions, available water capacity, all those things will decide what is the productivity level. So the reasons, once you know the reasons, then we can employ various technologies developed by horticulture research institutes, agriculture research universities, and ICR institutes. The technologies were on daily basis, they are attempting to address these problems of productivity enhancement. Then another important aspect is crop diversification. I told you the crop diversification with perennial horticulture crops is the sure shot method for addressing the climate challenges, because these perennial horticulture crops can withstand the vagaries of nature compared to the annual crops as well as other, not only horticulture crops, even the forestry. Then greening of the margin lands. This is I told you as per the COP 14, Government of India, our Prime Minister has committed to the UNCCP that we will bring land degradation neutrality by 2030. How it can be done? It has to be done with the help of forestry and perennial horticulture crops. So for that, we should know what is the degradation process in any particular land piece is facing, what is the degree of that problem, and how it can be brought under greening with the help of suitable species. If the land is highly productive, so there is any crop can be grown. If it is a degraded land, that needs to be, we need a proper scientific plan to bring certain species of plants and certain methods of cultivation or promotion. So all those things are possible if you have the proper. Then reclaiming the physically and chemically degraded lands, or restoring the health of the lands, because land degradation is a serious problem that I already talked about. Then the overall, this one is to secure a better livelihood for the dependent of the land, livelihood for not only the human beings, the livestock and many others who are dependent on land resources, that has to be ensured. For all this land resource inventory information needed. So coming to what are the challenges, how we are doing it, this one is, you can see here, any landscape if you take, I have shown in the photograph, now you can see in this depiction, where you can see any land, even if also it looks a very plain or flat land, there also we will have certain areas which are summits, certain are shoulders, then slope, foot slope, valley, all those things we can see here. And every part of this landscape has different potential, different constraints. So that has to be captured using the land resource inventory technology. So when you talk about the soil resources, land resources, there are two sets of parameters. One is the land resource inventory parameters, another is soil fertility parameters. When we talk about land resource inventory parameters, I have listed in the left side, it's geology, depth, texture, graveliness, color, all those things. So these are the ones which don't change very frequently. Means once you are capturing this information, this will remain valid for at least 25 to 30 years, and sometimes for even 50 years with periodical monitoring. These are the parameters which decide the best suitable crop, what crop is suitable for these lands, and how much productivity we can expect, what is the technology of cultivation. All these are dependent on the, and even soil and water conservation, all these are dependent on the LRI parameters why we left it on the left side. Fertility parameters are the dynamic parameters which can change from year to year depending upon the kind of crop grown, depending upon the kind of inputs you are using. The organic carbon, electrical conductivity, pH, macronutrient, all these things. And these parameters do not decide what kind of crop we are going to do. These can be changed within no time. Within a year, we can change, because just whatever the deficient nutrient is there, we can bring, apply that one and make the soil fertile for this one. So these two sets of parameters, both the sets are captured in the land resource inventory and brought out in the form of atlases and reports for helping the departments. You can see here one watershed. It is in Bidar only. It was studied by your Bidar people only. You can see here in one watershed of just 600 hectares, you can see in the left side, you can see just a few centimeters of soil, then around 30 to 40 centimeter deep soil, and more than 2 meters deep soil, black deep soils also. This is a lot of watershed in this one. And the satellite imagery, you can see here, the satellite imagery itself shows these are all the areas which are the lower areas or deep soils, and here we can see the soils with the various levels of degradation. So here the parent material is same, climate is same, but still we can see so much of variability in the soil, because of either because of the slope, or because of the management, or because of both the interaction of both these parameters. So whatever the crop we are growing in the shallow soils, that cannot be grown here, that cannot be grown in the deep soils, or the potential what we realize in this area is different in all these different soils. So here the land resource inventory, this is called as the soil profile. Once you open the soil profile only, the real potential or the constraints you can make out in the soils. So what is the conservation needed in the left side, and what is the conservation needed in the middle, and what is the conservation needed in the extreme right? They are totally different. So this land resource inventory is making the land resources of this area into different land management units, so that we can suggest the best crop, the best soil and water conservation measure, and the best forestry development, horticulture development for different parcels of land, so that the plan becomes scientifically viable and profitable. So this is the importance of soil land resource inventory. If you can see here the black soil, all three soil profiles are black soils. From outside, this is black soil, black soil, black soil. But if you in the left corner, you can see it is just 30 centimeters. What you see below is a line complete. If you are planting any deep-rooted crop, once it starts striking that 30 centimeters, starts withering, because root growth will not be allowed in this line nodules. Here it is below 60 centimeters. It is much below here. So what we see from outside and what we see inside, it may be totally different, and the management, the potential, and the constraints, they will be totally different. So that is the importance of the study of soil resources and by using the soil profiles. You can see the same thing in red soils also. Not that only black soils you can see here, it's red soil also. We can see so much of pyramid. You can see here a gravelly layer in the middle of this one, in the middle of profile. The gravelly layer is there, and here it are rocks are there, almost big stones and this one. So like that, from outside is what we see inside. What we call, that's why I'm telling repeatedly, potential and constraints are totally different. That needs to be captured for making the scientific plan. And coming to this you must have seen in many places the FAO slide. We can see so many the dynamic properties I'm talking. The plant nutrients are essential. Plant nutrients are in the soil, and they are needed for various physiological. Here the various, whether it is photosynthesis, drought tolerance, flowering, fruiting, all kinds of physiological activities. You must have studied in the plant physiology the essential role of plant nutrients. and same nutrients are needed for various physiological functions of human beings. Means the physiological functions of human beings are dependent on the physiological needs of the plants, and these plants are dependent on the soil. So if your soil is healthy, plant will be healthy, and the human health will be healthy. And there are managing the soil, very simple technologies are recommended here, that increasing the soil organic carbon. I'm repeatedly talking about that one. Minimum tillage or conservation farming, of what we call, and keeping the soil surface covered. That is also nothing but conservation. This one, reducing the erosion, because erosion is nothing but a huge loss of soil and soil nutrients. Then crop rotation. The simple techniques also can help in the management of soil resources. Then how we are doing the soil land resource inventory. So I will quickly go through, because because it cannot be taught or understood on the classes like this. It has to be seen on the field. So this is satellite imagery. Satellite imagery is overlaid with the cadastral map or village maps, and they are interpreted on the, it's a science of interpretation, remote sensing application. What I'm telling, our remote sensing science application scientists will be interpreting this one, and they will be preparing the base maps. With the help of base maps, our scientists, the soil scientists, or the agronomists and the field staff, they will be going to the field to verify what we see on the remote sensing products, whether it is the same thing occurring on the field or not, and if any correction is needed. So those things they will be undertaking in the base maps. And why it is essential, I'm showing you. See from here in this slide, you can see huge rocks or boulders on the surface, whereas the soil is almost more than a meter is also there. Means what we see with the help of satellite imagery shows this as a completely rocky land, but whereas there is a nearly 1 meter of soil which can support horticultural plants like mango or jackfruit, also plants here. So that's why there is a need for intensive ground truthing, what we call it as ground truthing, what we see in the remote sensing, and that will be checked in the field, what we with the help of ground truthing, and the corrections are made on the field. These are all the various activities, pre-field activities. Pre-field activities are done in the lab itself, that is interpretation of remote sensing products. And in Karnataka, we are fortunate that we have a digital information about the base maps, like the cadastral layer and satellite imagery. Very high resolution imageries are available. So these things are made use. Then these are all the various steps in the free field for the preparation of this one. Once they go to the field, so these are all the activities. You can see large number of activities, and the soil resource mapping is a very tough and very hard working one, because our people will be working in the field during the hot summer months, because when there is no crop only, these kinds of soil profile opening and traversing all this is possible. So that's why during the tough part of the year, we have to do all these kinds of activities, like checking the accuracy of the image, selecting the transect, opening the soil profile, examining with the help of various standard procedures, grouping the soils into based on different characteristics into, we call it as soil series. Soil series are nothing but management units. And finally, the draft soil map is prepared in the field itself. Samples are collected and sent to the lab for analysis. So all those things will next coming to the GIS lab, where in GIS lab, all these maps are processed on a geographic information system software and interpreted. Is one with the here the expertise of agriculture, agronomy, horticulture, soil science, soil and water conservation engineering. All these people will be used for generating the land resource inventory atlases, various thematic maps like soil depth, soil texture, soil erosion, all those things. Nearly 50 to 60 maps for each watershed are generated along with this one. And we are also preparing land resource inventory cards for the individual farmers, and all these things are disseminated with the help of department by the various land use departments. So this I am showing in the form of the pictures, pre-field activities. This is the satellite imagery. Then these are interpreted. These are all the field staff of our Sujala who are trained by us for undertaking this kind of interpretation. So based on the image interpretation and the preparation of initial base maps, our people will go to the field and check the varieties of the field activities. After the pre-field activities, next is the field activity with the help of remote sensing products and base maps. These people are checking the or what we call as ground truthing. Then the soil profiles are opened like this. Soil profiles, the ridge and uplands, midlands, valleys, these profiles are opened and studied in a standard format. So nowadays we are using these JCBs and using these soil profiles are opened. Then the surface characteristics, what we see on the surface, that's erosion, salinity, waterlogging, rot outcrops, all those things are captured in a standard format. What we see on the surface. Then what we see below is the the previous one is this is the site characteristics. What we see on the site. This is soil characteristics. What we see below the soil. So you can see here this particular profile. The top 20 centimeter is completely sandy, and below that one is full of clay. It's near Bangalore, in a Magadi place called Magadi. You can see here naturally these are all in situ soils. In situ soils means they have generated over millions and millions of years on from the parent material. The CLORPT, the process you must have heard in soil science courses. So here they are generated on the site itself. The alluvial soils are all in what we see in many in the deltaic regions as well as in the northern India. They are all alluvial soils. Alluvial means they are transported from other places, either from Himalaya or Aravallis, all those things. So they are not generated on the site. These in South India, it is mostly in situ soils, except for the deltaic region. So these and valleys. In these soils, you can see here over the millions of years, this soil 20 centimeters up, the top soil is sandy. What you see below is completely filled with clay. So you know, sand has a property of allowing rapid infiltration, and the clay below is has the capacity to hold soil moisture as well nutrients. So under these conditions, farmers are able to raise 3 rain-fed crops, 3 or 4 also. They will be growing ragi, groundnut, then pigeon pea, then banana. All these crops are under rain-fed conditions also. Farmers are able to raise it because of this particular set of soil characteristics. What we say. So this the sandy soil allows the infiltration as well as it prevents the evaporation. And what we find below that it stores the soil moisture, soil nutrients, and releases to the plant. Such a wonderful system has developed over millions of years, and the farmers are able to get the benefit. So what is this? The success behind this system we can make out from this soil profile study. From outside, you may feel that it's a sandy soil. It's a very poor soil. No, but it is what we see below. It supports that it's a really good soil, having good soil depth, good soil texture. Because what is the depth and what is the texture? That texture and depth, they decide the amount of nutrients it can hold, amount of water it can hold, and amount of crop the yield levels we can expect from the crops. So that depends on this. That will be understood only with the help of soil profile studies and not with the help of remote sensing this one. So that's why a thorough, intensive ground truthing is essential. So then the samples are collected and studied for various parameters in the field, like the texture, then the depth, available water capacity, salinity, alkalinity, layers, gravel layers. So many parameters, the standard parameters are there. Each and every parameter has got its significance for crop production, soil and water conservation, crop diversification, crop selection, whatever I listed in the objectives of land resource inventory. So for all those things, these are all captured. Nearly 80, up to 80 parameters you can capture in the field itself. So all these are recorded in a standard. See, this is the standard format for collecting all these, and even drawing the pen picture of the soil profile. And this is the very important document, which is a very valuable document for generating this one for each profile. If you calculate the manpower used, the time used, the resources used, more than 10,000 rupees is spent on each soil profile. So this record is a permanent record of that area, And for collecting the soil fertility status, these kinds of grids. So fertility status is captured only for the 15 or 30 centimeters depth only, and the soil fertility maps are prepared based on this one. Here, by using the kriging method, our GIS software people, they will do this one. This is for capture. This is for collecting the. You can see the various black dots here. They are all marked at 310 meters interval in rain-fed areas. And composite soil samples are collected. Means samples from around this one, 5-6 samples are collected, mixed, and a representative soil sample for this one. So for this particular spot, the geocodes, whether what is its latitude, what is the longitude, all those things are recorded on the standard format, and the soil samples are sent to the laboratory for analysis. And see, this is the hypothetical. This one I'm just showing here in a landscape. You can see here. These are all the land management units. 5 is occurring here, 5 is here, and here in 3 places. It means to say that whatever the site characteristics, what you see on the surface, what you see below the surface, soil and site characteristics in this particular unit, it is same here and same here. Wherever this 5 is occurring, they are same here. The soil and water conservation is same here. The requirement is whatever is required here is also can be applied here, and it can be applied here. And whatever the crops you are suggesting, that same crop can be suggested here and here and here. So like this, the entire landscape is divided into land management units. These numbers are nothing but the numbers given for the land management unit. The number 3 occurring wherever it is occurring, it has same soil and site characteristics. So it becomes very easy for the developmental departments to plan the soil and water conservation, crop diversification, or productivity enhancement, or the greening of the wasteland, or reclamation of wastelands. All those things is possible because we are dividing the entire landscape into land management units based on the soil and site characteristics what we see on the surface, the soil above as well as below. So same thing is shown in the form of a map here. That was a hypothetical one. Here it's a true map. This is a Lada watershed in Bidar. You can see different colors. Any particular color, if you take, that is a one management units. Various survey numbers. These survey numbers may be owned by different farmers or maybe same farmer also. All these survey numbers are having the similar soil and site characteristics, and this is one land management units. There are so many land management units you can see here depending upon the characteristics which are recorded during the land resource center. This is a very important map called soil. This is a soil map where we can see the texture, slope, erosion, graveliness. Any particular unit, if you take the texture of that unit, is all the plots is same. Slope is also same. Erosion status is also same. Graveliness of the unit also same. So like this, a homogeneous land management units are depicted on the soil map and given for the developmental departments for planning. When if you are joining your horticulture department or any other watershed department in the future, so these resource maps will be of great use for you for planning various projects. The various projects are handled by the departments, and these departments, while planning, they should know the status of these resources so that they can plan that they can develop the plan accordingly. So the uniqueness of this is these maps are in a spatial format, means in the form of a map we are indicating the potential and limitations. It is also useful for planning, monitoring, reviewing, as well as evaluating all kinds of land-based development projects. Planning, I have already talked. Monitoring, during the process, any project implementation, there is a process called monitoring and reviewing. So we should know if any particular thing is not performing well, any particular part of the watershed or a village is not performing well, then we can understand why this is not performing well, or somewhere it is performing exceedingly well. So why you will be able to understand if you have in your hand this information. Then evaluating any World Bank funded projects or the overseas funded projects, they will be undertaking reviewing or evaluating at the end of the projects to know whether the project has given any kind of benefits to the communities and the land resource, the natural resources. how much of benefit it has, whether the investment what they have made is worth or not, all those things. So I told you this database remains for 25 to 30 years valid with the periodical updating. Then many user-friendly applications, whether by startups or this one, or for the farmers and blind departments and researchers and students, anybody can make use of this one for user-friendly applications to help the farmers with the help of these resources. And the greatest this one is it enables the stakeholders. Stakeholders means developmental departments as well as the farmers, who are the owners of that land, take well-informed, site-specific and science-based decision. A farmer may want to put his land for mango, but he should know first whether my plot allows the resources, what is prevailing in my plot to support a mango crop or not, that he should know. Otherwise, particularly if you are committing your land for long-term investments like in perennial horticulture crops, so if it is not supporting the investment, you will making it. There are many many success stories or failure stories also, because if you are not assessing the suitability of that area for particular crop, you may end up in a huge loss. There are many examples. Because of this lack of time, I will not go through all this. So in any land resource inventory atlas, you can see so many maps, like starting with the base maps, then the soil, various interpretative maps like land capability, depth, texture, gravelness, water availability, slope, erosion, then fertility, already I talked. Then based on all this, the LRI parameters, with the evaluation of land for various crops. The crop diversification I was talking, for the diversification of crops, the evaluation will be taken up for understanding the suitability or not suitability of the crop, for those crops for those land management units. So these are all various thematic maps what I was trying, and I will try to go through quickly. So you can see here various classes, depth classes, very shallow, shallow, moderately shallow, all this one is depicted based on whatever the profile studies and characteristics recorded. These are the GIS software. These are processed and arrived at these. And the depth is one parameter which decides the suitability for various kinds of perennial horticulture crops, forestry crops, all those things. And you can see available water capacity. Available water capacity again depends on the what is the texture and what is the depth. So if you have the soils are supporting the soils are deep and having a good soil textural, heavy textural, they can hold more moisture, and there is no need for the supporting irrigation of this one. Wherever the lands are poor in water, available water capacity, you cannot grow the crops which need higher amounts of water. Or if you are growing, you should have a backup system that's for supplying the water. And you can see wherever there is available water capacities, crop performance will be very good. That is naturally understood. So this also helps in deciding the need for micro irrigation or any kind of irrigation system, or what kind of crop we can grow. So all those things. Then this is a very important parameter, soil organic carbon. You can see here, this is the biggest challenge nowadays we are facing, because in many watersheds we have seen 90 to 100% area is also sometimes deficient in soil organic carbon. Soil organic carbon deficiency means below 0.5%. 0.5% below means it is heading towards a desertification. Means the whatever the fertilizers you are putting, the plants will not be able to take it up, because there will be no microbial population to make it available to the plants. And this is one important parameter which also at the end of the project, if you can evaluate if there is any improvement in this particular parameter, then we can see that yes, the project has resulted in a positive gain for the natural resources. So it's a valuable tool for measuring the success or failure of any project. And soil organic carbon, you know, it decides the erodibility, decides the water holding capacity, this microbial population, and the nutrient holding capacity, micronutrient supply, all these things. A very, very valuable parameter which needs an intensive understanding. large area it is a clay soil here. So this also it decides the what kind of soil and water conservation is needed here, what kind of crops can be grown here, because the textural requirement of a paddy is different from groundnut. Groundnut needs sandy soils, whereas paddy needs clay soils. So like this, every crop has the soil textural needs. So that this parameter will help for deciding about the suitability of crop. Nowadays, another method has another technology has come, that is in the sand mulching or soil hybridization, we call it as. We can see here wherever the soil in the highly clay soils are mulched with the sand. In Bijapur, you can see Bijapur Dryland Research Station, it is done here. You can see the performance of sorghum. So wherever there is a sand mulching, there the crop performance is better, because this allows the better soil and water relationship, air and water relationship means better infiltration of water, better holding of moisture, and it will prevent the sand will prevent the evaporation of the moisture also. So compared to the only clay soils. So there are many success stories, and this is the soil textural understanding is very essential before going for sand mulching, because if the soil is already sandy, there is no need or it is of no use to apply sand. If the soil is clay, then only we should go for the tank seed application. Nowadays we are listening a lot of tank seed application. Here in these plots, we should not go for tank seed application, because it becomes totally cemented and water and air relationship gets completely disturbed, and for crop performance will become problematic. So all those things, the scientific information is made available with the help of the structural maps. Similarly, we have erosion classes for deciding. See, these are the areas which are suffering from the left, right corner, severe erosion. So that needs immediate attention for soil erosion, because if you are preventing in the beginning itself, lot of investment and efforts can be saved. So this is very, very important, and it is also in the benchmark sites. If you are able to monitor it, the status after various interventions, whether the project is successful or not can be evaluated. So we can see here, this is in the particular watershed in Tumkur, almost the severe classes you can see here, 41% out of 100, nearly 147 hectares is gully. Restoration of this land, you can see in the photographs also, is very, very expensive, very tough, very high amounts of investment is needed. So all those things are understood with the help of these maps. Then we have slope map. Then we have here the graveliness. Sometimes we may feel that gravel is not a good thing for the soils. No, gravels are very essential for maintaining the proper air and water relationship in the soil. Groundwater recharging also depends on the graveliness. So we should know where the gravel is more, where the gravel is less, so that the suitable crops, the suitable soil and water conservation measures all can be taken. Then this is the alkalinity pH map. Soil pH is a very important parameter which decides what kind of fertilizers we should use, what kind of micronutrients treatment we should use, because if you are using micronutrients in the strongly alkaline soils, they will be fixed and it will not be available to the plants. So they need to be cured with the help of FOM. FOM are a good compost. Then only it will be made available. And any interventions to correct the pH, it can result in a very, very, very favorable condition for the plant performance. So this is another important chemical parameter. So you can see here in a dry land, rainfed area, this one, a farmer who has planted here the coconut about 30 years back, I don't think he has planted in a salt affected area. The area became salt affected in the last 30-40 years because of the improper soil and water conservation measures in the upper reaches. So whatever the salts that are leached to this one, and because of blockage in the drainage in some places around here, so the area became completely salt affected, and the performance you can see here. So it's a kind of a man-made disaster in the soil salinity and the alkalinity problem. So you can see here in the salted, it's in Mandya district, Karnataka, where large areas is all white patches. What you can see here, all this is Visheshwarya Canal, and large areas where they are growing paddy, sugarcane, banana, paddy, sugarcane, banana, very high intensive water intensive crops year after year, more than 130 years they are under irrigation with these water intensive crops. So land has become salt affected nearly. This is a red soil area itself. This problem is now become a severe problem. So these are all things which you can capture in the help of land resource management. So this is the land capability classification. This is a very important interpretative maps. It tells which land is to be retained for agriculture, which has to be given for purposes other than. So you can see here the lands which are lower classes, they can be allotted for purposes other than agriculture without compromising the food security. So Karnataka Chief Secretary asked us to share this with industry department so that wherever they are developing the industries, so such lands only can be allotted for developing the non-agricultural mining areas. You can see here, these are all the areas that mine, where they are mining is taking place, how much of the, how much it is spreading. All those things can be recorded one time for future use. Then the important thing is the suitability evaluation of the stocking. So you can see here, this is suitability evaluation for banana. We are matching the requirement of crop with the status of land resources. Here, wherever you are seeing green, here S1 means whatever the soil properties occurring in these plots, that is this particular unit, and the requirement of this particular crop. I told you every crop has its own soil requirement, whether it's a banana or groundnut or paddy, any crop. They have its own particular set of soil characteristics in terms of depth, texture, then kind of clay, then available water capacity, all those things. Here in this green, it is perfectly matching the requirement of banana and the whatever the soil properties we see here, they are perfectly matching. As you go below, because of various constraints what were listed here, limitations were here, they are becoming less and less suitable. And if we have the technology to address these constraints, these areas also can be brought to under those crops. Or if the farmer is already growing that crop, his yield levels may be less. Why? Because of what reason the yield levels are less, we can make out. And if technology is available, or if technology can be developed, those constraints can be addressed and the productivity levels can be enhanced. Already farmer is growing a coconut, let us assume. Because of certain soil related constraints, productivity is less. So those constraints, whether it is a texture, let us assume that bring good quality soil from outside, or green manuring we can take up, or excess application of the compost or FY, and the soil characteristics can be, the basin, the coconut basin can be improved, and the productivity levels can be enhanced. So crop diversification, a government wants to promote cashew. So what are the plots? What are the plots which are highly suitable? No problem, they can take up the cashew cultivation there. But there are plots where farmers are interested to take up, government wants to promote that one. Those areas, those plots also can be brought under cashew, but we should know what are the constraints occurring in those plots. And those constraints have to be, to the extent possible, addressed and brought under that crop. Then the project becomes successful. So all these inputs, scientific inputs, are provided with the help of land resource inventory. The land resource inventory is neutral. It can be used for any purpose, any crop it can be used for evaluation. So you can hear jackfruit plantation, you can see. When you are going for perennial crops, I'm telling you repeatedly, so this has to be evaluated first. Many companies are also approaching us many times for promoting various kinds of crops for their industrial purposes. So before taking up the crop itself, you are evaluating, then the chances of failure are less. Then, of course, we have other ancillary parameters that are very important. That is the rainfall, what is the maximum, what is the minimum, what is the potential evapotranspiration. All these are essential to decide to what extent we can conserve the soil and soil moisture in the field, how much water can be saved outside. All those things are calculated. It's very useful input for soil and water conservation engineers, as well as the specialists in horticulture, agronomy, all these people to decide on these parameters. I'm showing you the soil and water conservation. This is one of the very important activity by the government in conserving in any projects, they spent nearly 50 to 60% of that budget goes for soil and water conservation. That's why they should know, they should be able to make out in their plan what is the best soil and water conservation, where it should be located, how many such are needed, so that during the years of distress, the stored soil moisture, stored soil and soil, the water can be made use during the year, can be made use during the years of distress from the years of this one. In the previous, this one I was showing, here in this particular area, we can see, although the minimum is 568 in some years, that's year of distress, but there are years of, you can see 1900 millimeters, how the average is 996, 1900 means the Anna Hazare success or Hure Bajar in Maharashtra, and many watersheds are there. Kottamal is there in Belgaum district. So wherever they are able to harvest maximum water during the years of excess, they can sustain during the years of distress. So for that one, we need to know what is the best suitable soil and water conservation structure, how many structures are needed, so that soil and water conservation structures are put in place to harvest the maximum water and make use during the years of distress in rain-fed areas. This is the drainage line treatment. What I was showing in the previous was the croplands or fields. Here in a drainage line, there are between the fields, they are all owned by government. The drainage pattern, you can see these are the water, whatever that comes, it will finally come and get stored here. During the course of this coming itself, in the drainage lines, we can put several structures so that soil and water conservation is made effective. What is the best structure? Like a boulder check dam, farm pond, Gavian structure, whatever is needed there, that has to be decided. And here, not only land resource inventory, a thorough traversing, visiting each and every drainage line is essential. Accordingly, we can plan. Then we can find out, we can bring out what is the problem of their major problems of their area, what are the major potentials of the area. So you can see here in this watershed, particular watershed, entire watershed is deficient in phosphorus. Entire watershed is deficient in iron. So all those things can be brought out and brought into the notice of the planners and development department. This is one example I am quoting in many places. Here in Magadi, the watershed development department promoted mango in a very big way. Every plot you can see the mango. But if you see the after 2 months, if you see the fruit set, the entire area is mango malformation as well as a fruit drop. And the reason behind it, entire watershed is deficient in boron. You know, the plant physiology teachers must have taught you, wherever there is a boron deficiency, the fruit set will be poor. By just addressing the boron deficiency, the fruit set, the other reason may be there, but the major reason here for the poor fruit set is boron deficiency. So we are able to diagnose the reason behind any problem. I was telling you, it's a kind of diagnosis report. See, based on our studies in this is in the Koppal Taluk, you can see here almost 16% of the area has become deficient, and this is marginal. If you see, almost 50% of the area is under this distress for soil organic carbon, and organic carbon is having multiple importance in this one. And what are the measures needed to address that problem also we are giving in the report. Similarly, zinc. Zinc is almost deficient in 64%. Just addressing the zinc deficit, it's hardly, it will cost around 500 rupees per hectare, 1 or 2 years. 30% of yield can be increased, up to 30% yield can be increased. And Dharwad Agriculture University has now put in the package of practice itself. Then, of course, I told for industrial, this one I told, mining also I told. This is horticulture clusters. The government of Karnataka and the government of India program has come, developing the horticulture clusters, then farmers produce organizations for promoting the horticulture. So here, our soil resource maps are very, very useful for them to develop these clusters wherever there is a possibility of growing particular commodity for processing and export. All those things can be made. Then what is the extent of loss in various watersheds? Soil and water conservation, soil erosion, how much of our Ganesh Gowda Patil is here, our agriculture economics has worked out the extent of loss of soil nutrients, annual soil erosion, and the nutrient loss, how much of soil is lost from the watershed, how much of nutrient is lost, and how much of additional inputs are needed. So once these things are brought to the notice of the policy framing people and our politicians, the ministers. They will be able to appreciate, because not only appreciate, they will be in the alarming situation, they will be able to understand and take up the measures to address those problems, so that the land resources are preserved for future generations. This is the land resource inventory card we are giving to the farmers, each farmer indicating the deficiency of nutrients, as well as the various LRI parameters, the texture, depth, graveliness, all those things we are giving to individual farmers from the land resource inventory atlas to the farmers, so that they can, and what are the best suitable crops, what are the limitations, what are the suggested interventions, all those things. So in Karnataka, under the Sujala project, the farmers are helped to develop this crop management, nutrient advisory, soil and water management, and even marketing is also. If you go to Karnataka Watershed Development Department website, they are linked to the Sujala, wherein it, of course, there are some limitations now. They are trying to make it further fine tuning. They are taking up. So it is a unique effort by Karnataka government, where they are trying to provide this land resource inventory information for all these purposes, and of course many more purposes, online. So anybody who is interested, who is the stakeholder of the land resources, can make use of this information for taking scientific decisions on this land. So for improved watershed development planning also, so you can see here from the horticulture department, the expansion programs, productivity improvement programs. If you are joining the department, you will be horticulture department in your states. If you are department, you can see nowadays many programs, many more programs are there. Micro irrigation program is there, demonstrations are there, post harvest program. All these programs, if you have improved watershed planning, can be possible if there is the information available. Information should be available, it should be easily available, easily accessible by the users, and the user should be able to understand how it can be made use for better planning, better implementation, and better monitoring and evaluation. So these are also some of the interventions that the under Sujala project taken place in Gulbarga. That is, so crop diversification here, there, and farm fund also you can see here. They have been based on the land resource inventory information is taking place. Then of course soil and water conservation, for because animal husbandry is a very important activity, and it's a very essential activity for sustaining agriculture, horticulture, or any other, particularly in rain-fed areas. You can see the soil and water conservation measures. These are called as trench compounding for capturing this one. These are all the farm ponds they have constructed. You can see this one. So these are all some of the, because the time is running out, I'm quickly going through. See, there are some of the publications available with us based on our studies, land resource inventory, how it is done, what is its importance, how the doubling of farmers' income, all this is possible. These are all available now in the Sujala watershed also. And other studies, for example, we have been studying because our Kerala is one of our states under our jurisdiction. So how the coconut-based cropping systems can be improved, productivity can be improved. All that studies we have taken up with various institutes in Kerala, like what we did in Karnataka. Then under Sujala also, how the soil resource information can be made use. In the Kannada, we have given for the farmers in various training programs, huge number of training programs, because generational information is okay, we are doing and we are successful, but conveying that to the users, the land users, is very, very crucial. Most of the projects are failed because the information is available, but that is not being made use by the farmers because of lack of accessibility or awareness to make use of it. So this is very important. And how to make use of these cards, what are the, based on what you see in their cards, what are the interventions the farmers themselves, if the farmer is able to make, is an elite one, is educated on how he himself can make use of this one. So these are the various reports I'm showing you, field guide for this one. Finally, this is the last slide. This is our contact. This one, our website is nbsslup.in. You can visit our website. We can communicate to our email address also. This is our Bangalore Center's email address. And all of you are after your completion of a degree or post-graduation, you are going to join whether various organizations, whether it's in government or in private, or sometimes you are starting your own organization, but you have to keep in mind that everyone should contribute. See, I can just read, some members keep their organization strong while others join and just belong. Some dig right in, some serve with pride, but some go along just for a ride. Some volunteer to do their share while some sit back and just don't care. On meeting days, some always show, but there are those who never go. Some always pay their dues ahead, some get behind months instead. Some do their best, some build the organization, some make the organization, some never give, but always take something from the organization. And some lag behind, some let things go, some never help their organizations go. It's very important. Wherever you are working, it is essential that you contribute for the development of your organization. The organization should grow for the betterment. And some drag, some pull, some don't, some do. And now you decide which of these are you. My only request is try to contribute for your organization for the development of it and realize the better life for the communities which are feeding all of us. Thank you
all. Thank you very much, sir. In view of virtual all India State Tour program and also Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav, you have given in-depth of information of land resource inventarizations and GIS and the activities of NBSS LUP with the aid of PowerPoint presentations, pictures, video clips. It was very informative, effective, and useful to students, sir. And very rightly pointed out by another regional head, State Regional Center from Johar, Dr. Sanjay, sir, also pointed that you have selected a very good topic for the benefit of the students, sir. So really, we are very much thankful to you, sir. And we are also on this occasion to welcome the Regional Center from Johar, NBSS LUP. Dr. Sanjay, sir, is also joined this session. You are also welcome, sir. Sir is in this one group. So now it is the time for discussion. So if any questions are there, students can ask. Sir is with us. You can ask any questions either in the chat box or even orally you can ask.
Sir, Ganesh, there are some questions in chat box.
Yes, sir.
If the students are there, they can orally ask, or else
yes, sir.
we'll just highlight those and can be interacted.
Sir, some questions like you may be seeing, sir. One question from Sangolgi Omkar. As we know, naturally rocks takes too long time for weathering and finally transforming into soil. Is it possible for artificially increasing the weathering process speed, at least in small scale?
I don't think so. It is because it is such a process. It has taken millions of years. It can be shortened by this one. Of course, we can attempt in a small scale in your garden or this one. But you see here, there are 5 factors. CLORPT we tell now. The climate, the relief, the organisms, the parent material, time, all those parameters are have worked over millions of years to formation of the soil. So that is the thing. So I don't think it is practically possible, and for an experimental places, definitely.
Yes, sir. And next question from Shruti, sir. Is land use a good measure for sustainable performance of energy technologies?
I could not understand the question. You please repeat once again.
Sir, is land use a good measurement for sustainable performance of energy technologies?
Oh, definitely. It is this one. The question itself, there is answer. The land, see, in any place, if you see the kind of land use what we witness is based on the experience of the farmers who has inherited it from this one. And farmers will be telling his sons who are into the agriculture. So what particular plot of land is he is using for particular, where its performance is better, where it cannot be put for this one. So then, based on their experience itself, they will be able to guide their children because of the land use what they have inherited from their forefathers and parents.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question from Srivya D. Patil. How were geological and soil maps made before satellite data era?
It was a very tough process without with the satellite imagery. the process has become very simple, not very simple, but it has facilitated in a better way to easier way to capture the information, because we will be able to understand where I'm standing in the field, what is the before going into the field itself. Nowadays, we are able to make out from the remote sensing, high resolution remote sensing products. Earlier, it was everything they used to for traversing, intensive traversing. It was a very tough work.
Yes, sir. One more question from Pooja. Measures to be taken to enrich soil with earthworms and microbes.
Yeah, there are your soil science course you must have been taught. No, there are the simple ways. I told you that FAO. This one I told you, I showed. There are 4 or 5 very simple techniques which everyone can practice. That is mulching, the crop rotation, then conservation tillage, then 5 measures were listed there. So they will, all these practices will definitely promote the soil earthworms and soil health parameters.
Sir, and one question from Sridhar: is digital survey benefit for farmers?
Yeah,
Is
all
digital
surveys.
survey-
Nowadays, our scientists have taken up digital soil mapping projects with the help of some experienced experts from outside. Definitely, any information, soil resource information with the help of very advanced technologies, I'm going to help the farmers. And already generated information is also now preserved in the made available to the stakeholders in the digital form. So it is definitely going to help the various stakeholders, including farmers, developmental departments.
Okay, sir. Question from Bhagyasri: as nowadays heavy machineries are being used in agriculture, and it is a efficient and affecting soil compactness. How are these problems tackled?
Yeah, they are all the part of the this one. Once we are using the technology for using the because labor shortage, and this one is forcing us to use these machineries, and the machineries also bring certain problems, and those problems are again solved with the help of some more machineries for a deep tillage and this one. So problems will emerge, and for that only agriculture scientists are existing here. If the problems emerging, problems don't emerge, our agriculture scientists will not be there. So problems have to come up. Then only they keep coming, and we have to keep finding the solutions to address those problems.
Sir, question from Sweta: for seed germination, which element is essential?
No,
For
actually, 1 minute. No, we always insist students to ask question.
Okay.
Just for the sake of asking question, one should not. You know the seed germination, it is only the moisture. The seed itself is having all the things. After the germination, only you should talk about the elements. Okay. Okay. I think if there are questions directly, students are asking, you call them and make them to ask the questions. Okay.
Yes, sir. Students, please come forward and ask questions. Please ask orally. Sir, question from Nidhi here in text: what are the effects on soil by incorporating paddy straw after harvest?
Paddy straw, the conservation tillage, in Punjab and Western UP, the paddy straw, they are doing the experimentation for incorporating directly, but they find it problematic for taking up the sowing of the next crop immediately, unless it is decomposed quickly. So for that only, you must have heard last year, the IRA has developed a certain microbial cultures for quick decomposition. Unless it is properly decomposed, the sowing of next crops becomes difficult. That is the major reason for the residue burning, the paddy straw burning in Punjab and UP and Haryana, and leading to in parts of Delhi, leading to the smog problem in Delhi. So technologies are being developed. Many attempts are nowadays being made, and the paddy straw is also now used for generating the energy products, the bricks, then They are also the huge companies are coming to generate ethanol. So all those things are happening.
Sir, one more question from Mahima. She is coming, sir. Directly, she want to ask. Sir.
Come to Bangalore, she has to catch a train.
Sir, in soil, how to overcome the problem of excess nitrogen in soil?
Excess of nitrogen. Actually, the most of our soils are deficient in nitrogen. Excess nitrogen problem we are hardly witnessing in any area. Most of the Indian soils, particularly wherever we have studied, particularly Sujara, we have seen almost every inch of land is deficient in nitrogen. So this problem is not a common problem I have heard. Sujala video is there, 4.5 meters. Can we attempt to show it?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will just attempt. Let us see whether if it works. I don't know. Now we try.
Please.
It's coming, huh?
Share screen ಮಾಡಿ ಹೆಂಗ್ದೇವ್ರು ಮೊದಲು ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಿ.
Into field, knowing the variability of soil.
ನಮಗೆ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
1 minute.
The resources at field level can help to overcome the site-specific constraints. The success of watershed development,
Yes, sir.
precision farming, smart farming. Land resources are not uniform and vary widely from field to field. Knowing the variability of soil, water, land use, weather, and other resources at field level can help to overcome the site-specific constraints. The success of watershed development, precision farming, smart farming, per crop, more crop, depends on identifying site-specific constraints and designing appropriate interventions to overcome them. Such site-specific land resource information is not available at present. In this context, the World Bank-supported Sujala 3 project is taken up in Karnataka to generate site-specific land resource interface by using the state-of-the-art remote sensing, GIS, field surveying, and mapping techniques. Develop digital library, establish portal, develop decision support systems for real-time advisory, and strengthen horticulture and other programs in rain-fed areas. Sujala project is implemented from 2013 in 11 districts with an estimated cost of 527.67 crore rupees. The project is executed by a consortium of 14 institutions, the National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning, led to Land Resource Inventory, and Indian Institute of Science on Hydrology. Land Resource Inventory is carried out by using cadastral maps and high-resolution satellite imagery by traversing the watershed area, opening profiles to characterize the soils, and collecting soil and water samples for analysis based on the similarity in soil, site, and other characteristics. Homogeneous areas are delineated as management units and soil map prepared from the LRI database. Thematic maps on soil and water conservation, crop sustainability, nutrient and groundwater status, etc. are generated through GIS. The spatial and non-spatial database and maps generated from LRI are disseminated to the line departments, farmers, and other users on real-time basis through the establishment of digital library, LRI portal, decision support system, and mobile applications. The development of decision support systems is critical for providing advisories and options to the planners, farmers, and other land users in making their choices. The DSS on soil and water conservation helps to identify the type of structures, their design and estimate. DSS for crop selection helps to select the most suitable crop for the farm, and on nutrient to apply required amount of nutrients to the selected crops. Similarly, the other DSS can help in identifying amount of runoff at farm and watershed levels, location of farm ponds, crop water requirement, soil moisture, and for water budgeting. Based on LRI information, conservation plan, crop plan, and other treatment plans are prepared for 11 sub-watersheds and is under implementation on a saturation mode in 11 project districts in the state. The visible outcomes of Sulaja 3 project, like reduction of watershed cycle to 3 years, targeting way of making up site-specific treatments, have drawn the attention of many states and are fast emerging as a role model to follow for watershed development, particularly for the Rancho project in the country. All this has brought in many laurels and accolades at the national and international levels.
Yes, sir. 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 Sir, Dean sir, shall we proceed for vote of thanks or any?
Yes, if there are no questions, then it can be. Okay, if anyone wants to ask question, right? Otherwise, I think sufficiently there was a discussion.
Sir, I have one opinion, sir. Am I?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir,
yes,
please.
Praveen.
Sir, for the information of our student, as we know that an institute has been established in every university, that is Sujala 3 centers are established. NBSS LUP Institute has played a major role in establishing this, starting from training, manpower enhancement, as well as strengthening of all the institute. So in that way, I must say at this juncture to the information of our student that NBSS LUP Bangalore, headed by Dr. Rajendra Hegde, they have guided us they have holded our finger to achieve all the targets and tasks given to us in the project. So on behalf of the students and as well as our institute, sir, I am very thankful to you. And now I hand it over to our dean, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
I mean,
Thank you.
actually, introductory itself, we told, and because Sujala 3, their role is very important and they have to be serious. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Ganesh. You can.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, Praveen sir. And is there any questions from student side? If no more questions, then we'll go to for vote of thanks. So now I request final students Pratima to convey vote of thanks.
Hello, sir. I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Rajendra Hegde, Principal Scientist, Regional Head, ICARI, NBSS and LUP Bangalore. On behalf of my virtual tour mates for your presence and your elaboration, presentation and discussion. I was extremely insightful and informative. It was a helpful session and made us understand the mandates of Institute in a clear way. Thank you for answering our queries in the chat box. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dean Dr. Ravindra Murgay, sir, who is the backbone of this program. I would also extend my gratitude to the host of organizing this informative session and all of my batchmates from Bagalkot, Arpavi, Sirsi and Bidar for your cooperation and helping us to make today's meeting a grand success. Thank you everyone. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you all the best. Really.
Yes, sir.
Ganesh,
Thank you, sir.
Ganesh,
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you, sir.
Praveen, all.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
sir.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
We'll close that. We'll
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For information to the students, next session is at 2:30 from the National Research Center on Litchi. So please join at 2:30 p.m. Thank you, Rana.